I would now like to share some passages that I feel exemplify this notion. In her diary entries, Lorde writes, "I must let this pain flow through me and pass on. If I resist or try to stop it, it will detonate inside me, shatter me, splatter my pieces against every wall and person that I touch." I want to write about this pain, the pain of waking up in the recovery room, which is worsened by that immediate sense of loss, of going in and out of pain and shots, of the correct position for my arm to drain, the euphoria of the second day, and how it's been downhill from there. In these quotations, the notion that one should not deny or block pain, but allow it to pass through and flow like a river is present. Through the poetic and concise style of Lorde's writing, she promotes psychological healing as she allows the words to flow from her down into her personal diary entries. The act of verbally expressing pain and conceptualizing the different stages and segments of one's journey through an illness provides a cathartic release and means of coping with illness. In a sense, the transformation of silence into language results in the action of self-healing. The verbalization and conceptualization of pain may be deemed even more necessary when the point at which the pain originates from no longer seems to be a drastic wound, but instead a healed scar. Lorde writes, "Even propped up on pillows, I found I couldn't sleep more than 3 or 4 hours at a time because my back and shoulder were paining me so. They were fixed pains and movable pains, deep pains and surface pains, strong pains and weak pains. There were stabs and throbs and burns, gripes and tickles and itches. I would peep under the bandage when I changed it. The scar still looked placid and inoffensive, like the trussed rump of a stuffed goose, and once the stitches were out, even the puffiness passed." This passage highlights the fact that even though the physical scar where Lorde's breast once was appears inoffensive and physically healed, the various levels and specificities of painful sensations are still present. Without the written expression of this pain, one would never know. And perhaps the written expression of this pain helps Lorde understand her pain herself, since it seems that all is healed on the outside. While the previous passages focus on the healing of the self through the articulation of pain, this next section will focus more on the healing of others, in addition to the self. Therefore, this section can piggyback off of Stephanie's section on the articulation of pain as a communal experience. Another way in which Lorde promotes healing is through the dialogue with the women in her life. She writes, "Perhaps I can say this almost simply. I say, the love of women healed me. In addition to the woman energy outside of me, I know that there must have been an answering energy within myself that allowed me to connect to the power flowing." Lorde's desire to reach out to other women and connect over these similar experiences seems to offer healing not only for herself, but for the other party as well, in this case, Little Sister. The dialogue between Lorde and Little Sister, surrounding breast cancer and life post-mastectomy, got the following reaction out of Brother Henry. At one point, Brother Henry sort of wrinkled up his nose and said plaintively, "Can't y'all talk about something else now? You kinda upsetting my stomach." Little Sister and I just looked at him for a moment, and then returned to our conversation. We disagreed about prostheses, but she was very reassuring and told me what to look out for, like rainy days and colds in the chest. We did everything but show each other our scars. Articulating pain through dialogue, community, and writing are all forms of healing, but people tried to impose silence or impose prostheses because breast cancer and bodily changes such as breast amputation are uncomfortable to see or hear about. Therefore, women are denied healing when they are not allowed to articulate pain. However, in communities of women who love and support Lorde, she can articulate it in words and writing and thus feel a sense of relief, compassion, and understanding. Although Lorde and Little Sister disagree about prostheses, Lorde is left with the impression, after Little Sister leaves, that Little Sister probably hadn't talked about her breast cancer in many years. And judging by the reaction to Henry's probably unappreciated interjection into their discussion, Lil's sister seemed to be psychologically benefiting from the discussion of her breast cancer to such an extent.
To conclude this case study, we would like to sum up the points we have made about empowerment through articulation of pain. Firstly, Lord's activism and the subjective illness experience positions her body in the cancer journals as a vessel for enacting and encouraging change. This is in regards to what she calls the cancer establishment and a change in the treatment of breast cancer and mastectomy survivors by artificial persons in the medical and prosthesis industries, by other women in society, and by employers. She calls for an outcry of defiance to refuse to stay silent in the face of being medically colonised. For Lord, empowerment came from the aesthetic and sexual reclamation of her body. This was in her refusal to wear the prosthesis and through masturbation. But it was also through the sharing of her experience with the women around her, all of whom she describes as warriors. And yet, her articulation of pain is important because it is not an experience shared by all. Every case of breast cancer and every experience of recovering from a mastectomy is different. Not only this, but her time reading therapy texts and her interactions with nurses highlights the deep misunderstanding of illness experience by non-ill people. Her narrative gives people who do not understand, or have no knowledge, a poetic, personal account of her experience, giving an opportunity for people to learn more and to rethink personal and social values. Meanwhile, for Lord, acknowledging and articulating her experience of the pain of breast cancer and mastectomies with other survivors was both empowering and part of the healing process, emphasising that articulation of one's experiences is valuable, empowering, and healing whether given verbally or read in a written illness narrative like the cancer journals. Here is our bibliography, and we thank you for listening. Please see the Moodle post for the 3 discussion questions on our case study. Everything we have said in this case study will also be in transcribed form posted onto Moodle alongside this recording.